Let's talk about assessments. The reason for assessing learners is to document what they know and how much they know about specific and intended learning targets. This podcast will touch upon some ideas surrounding pre- and post-assessments in a problem-based learning environment. Students come to the classroom with a wide and diverse range of experiences. How do we know what they already know, or what they don't know? Pre-assessments help facilitators assess the knowledge students already have. Facilitators can modify plans and lesson delivery based on information gained from pre-assessments. Post-assessments allow facilitators to measure growth and gained knowledge.
They help you to know what your students already know, and that saves time in the classroom because time is so precious. There's only so much time in the day. And if you pre-test your students, you're going to know what they already know, so you don't have to spend so much time on reteaching things that they already know. And you're going to spend more valuable time on teaching things that they need to know. And I think that's why it's important to pre-test.
Well, you have to know where they start. And that's the key to that. You have to know where they begin in order to know where they go to. You give them a really quick pre-test and you can go from where they're at rather than where you think they're at.
If you know exactly where they're at, that can make learning so much better for them because they are like, okay, let's go. They're ready to go. They're excited to go because they know they're going to learn something new. It's not just old stuff that they already know.
The kids today know more. They don't know more up here, but they have more knowledge in their hands. And so when they come into the classroom, if they can Google it, they know the information, but they don't understand it. So I think our role has changed from giving them the facts. So our job as teachers is now to facilitate their understanding of that, all that knowledge.
When you're creating your pre- and post-assessments, think of Bloom's levels of understanding. You'll want to ask questions that reflect student understanding from basic to mastery. Assessment questions can also focus on different learning modalities or learning styles, such as visual, logical, and verbal. A visual question may ask students to draw a picture or diagram to show their thinking. It provides a special area or outline space where students may write. A logical question allows students to create a list, an equation, or an organized diagram to demonstrate their thinking. A verbal question allows for a written response to explain an answer, argument, or idea.
If you ask a student to explain something in a math classroom and they leave it blank, it's because they don't know how to explain it in text. Or the same thing with the history. You have a really, good history student who's used to writing an awful lot. You put them in a math classroom and ask them to come up with an equation, they're going to have a difficult time with that. You can't let them off the hook. We all have to learn how to do the equations. We all have to learn how to write paragraphs. We all have to learn how to do all of those things. But again, it goes to where the student is at as opposed to where we think they're at. And that's key to that.
I would start with a question and I would look at it, and first we'd start with, taking that question and seeing how I could set it up in a visual way where the kids would answer it, showing me a visual, answer to the question. And then we would turn it into, now how can I turn that into a logical way where you can maybe apply a number sentence to that question? And then it would be the last part of that question would be written, where they'd have to write and explain to me how they answered that question in words. So we get kind of the verbal written form of it. Sometimes it would be set up in a story where they'd have to tell a story about it. Sometimes it was just a step-by-step sequence of how they answered the question in a written way. Yet I wanted each person to try and answer each of those questions because I feel like if they can answer all those questions in all the different learning styles, again, we're going back to their understanding that concept so much more in depth. Okay, Mrs. Peterson, we can do this. We know how to do this. So there's a story problem page, and it's story problems. I mean, kids are not confident with story problems. But after doing this process, these kids are like, we can do this. We can. And they're working through, and I give them like 5-10 minutes to work through these story problems. I'm like, you work through what you can, and then I will help you. 9 times out of 10, they answer all of them on the page, and they're story problems where they're not only just showing like the number sentence and the visuals, but they're having to write how they figured it out, and they can do every step. So it's like it's not something that scares them anymore. They're confident in what they're doing. So.
Often, post-assessments will have more questions than pre-assessments, and that's okay. Asking more questions on the post-assessment will help direct growth and inform future instruction. Remember, you're not asking questions about what was done, but rather what students learned.
biggest aha moments we've had is the lack of, actually it's the growth that you see in the student. And we didn't see that before. We always, again, patted ourselves on the back because those post tests were always really good, but again, we didn't know where they were coming from. And the biggest aha moment are those low flyer students, the ones who really struggle. They start out so poor, so low at the beginning, and through everything that we do, we now get to see not only growth, but we now get to determine how much growth. And it's a little bit like that really bad teacher movie, you know, where the students still didn't get a 60%, but they went from a 10% to a 50%. That's 40% growth. And if we can get them 40% there, we can get them 40% more. And that has really been the aha for me, is you get to now quantify their growth rather than looking at a letter grade, or rather than looking at, yeah, you got an A on this. You now get to tell that student you have improved 50%. That's huge. And in their highs, they see that as success. And it's a huge success. We're not living, you're not going from an F to an A, you're going from this data to this data. And that's been awesome.
A teacher needs to be more creative because they're coming in with curiosity. They want to know why. Why do I need to learn this? Why is this important for me? How is this going to benefit me? And when I was in school, you never asked a teacher why. That was, you just did what you were told. But that's different nowadays. The kids want to know why. Why are we learning this? And so a teacher needs to be creative in planning lessons that enhance that curiosity, make them want to learn and make them be excited to learn and understand why this is important for their learning, because they are asking those questions, why and how and things like that.
And today those kids have all that information in the palm of their hands.